Assalamu alaikum, grade 11, how are you? We are still in module 5. We have finished unit 7, which discussed Charles Dickens literature, and we discussed also Oliver Twist and some of the types of writing and types of writers. But you have to remember, when we talked about module 5, we said that it's going to be about the written word. So in Unit 7, we discussed the written word as in short stories, novels, plays, the usual written word. In Unit 8, we're going to move to a different kind of written word as well. And as you see in front of you, Unit 8, which is on page 64, starts with a lesson called the Language of Braille. We are on page 64, and on top of the page, you can see two pictures. These two pictures concern the man that you see in the middle. This man is called Louis Braille. I'm not sure if you've ever heard of Braille. We'll learn more about him and his system of writing and reading in a minute. And we will go back to these pictures later on. So, moving on to the actual reading. We have a few words here in the box, and all of these words are found in your, either in the lesson itself, they are explained in the lesson, or they are explained in the glossary at the end of your activity book. So the word signal, for example, is a noun. It means a sound or an action that you make in order to give information to someone or to tell them to do something. I can give you a very simple example of a signal. For example, you and your best friend probably have signals in between you guys. Nobody understands the signal except you. Some signals that everybody uses are things like a wink or a thumbs up. These are all signals. They mean something. When we do them, we are sending a message. Drumbeat. I think it explains itself. A drumbeat is the sound of someone hitting a drum. So that's a drumbeat. Picture. A picture is a photo. It can be taken by a camera or it can be drawn by someone. Alphabet. The alphabet are the letters used in a specific language. And these letters, when they are put together in a certain way, they convey sounds. And these sounds convey different meanings. For example, I can use the English alphabet and use the letters C and A and T to make the word cat. The sound cat means this small animal that is seen on the streets or that can be a pet at home. Symbol. What is the meaning of symbol? A symbol is also a noun. It is a picture or a shape that has a particular meaning or it represents a particular organization or idea. So, for example, certain companies have symbols. They are not called symbols, they are called logos, for example. We have special logos that show that this product is made by Adidas, for example. So we know from the symbol used or the logo that is used that this is a product from this company. But we can use symbols or drawings that represent something other than for the sake of companies. We will talk about symbols more in the reading. Mass media. What is the meaning of mass media? Mass media is a noun, and it means people and organizations that provide information and news for the public by means of the television, the radio, newspapers. Also, now we have more mass media, more access to mass media, because it's not only television and newspapers, we have also social media like WhatsApp and Instagram. It's any means where people can exchange information and learn about the world and information regarding different fields. Braille. Notice the Braille word is written with a capital B. Braille is a proper noun, and it can refer to the person in front of you in the picture, this blind man. He is called Louis Braille, and it can also refer to the system of writing that he invented, which was given the name Braille as well. Newspaper, I understand I think that you all understand what newspaper means. It's now we have newspapers, the old-fashioned newspapers, which are the papers that you buy every morning to see the latest news. But we also now have newspapers that are online, virtual newspapers. Software. Software is the program that is used to direct the operation of a computer. We have different softwares on your computers, probably. And now we are going to move to the actual lesson, the language of Braille. Communication, the sharing of information, ideas, and thoughts, can take many forms. Before we move on to the explanation of meanings, let's look at this sentence. Where is the subject? Communication is the subject. Where is the verb? Can take is the verb. So actually the sentence says, communication can take many forms. So what is this part in between commas? The sharing of information, ideas, and thoughts. This is actually an appositive, or it is the definition of communication. So what is communication? It is the sharing of information, ideas, and thoughts. And the sharing of information can take many forms, can take many shapes. It can happen in different ways. How do we communicate? How did people communicate a long time ago? Let's see. Before the development of writing, people communicated via, what is the meaning of via? Via means by means of. So before we had writing, there was no writing before. So how did people communicate? They communicated through smoke signals. If you've ever seen an old movie where they have the Native Americans referred to a long time ago as Red Indians, they used to use smoke signals to send messages to other tribes. So we have smoke signals, we have cave paintings, and we have drum beats. These were means of communication before writing. The first systems of writing used pictures to convey meaning. Can you think of anybody who used pictures to convey meaning? Yes, in Egypt, a very, very long time ago. They used pictures, the hieroglyphics, to convey meaning. Gradually, as language developed, alphabets evolved using letters and symbols which represented sounds. So the letters that we use nowadays are actually symbols. They are symbols that represent sounds. These sounds, in turn, made up words. Moving on, the invention of the printing press in the 15th century led to the first forms of mass media. Notice the colon after mass media shows us that this is going to be an illustration or examples or more information about what is mass media. Mass media means newspapers and magazines. This is the original meaning of mass media, newspapers and magazines. Later on, the radio was developed. After the radio, we had the television being developed. And after that, now we have social media. All of this is called mass media. Until then, it hadn't been possible to reach thousands of readers at the same time. Nobody could tell the whole country of an announcement, for example, that they wanted people to know of. You know that a long time ago, people used to send messengers on horseback to call out in the markets to let people know of an important announcement or to let them know the news. So how did or when did people start receiving information or news at a mass scale? After the printing press was invented in the 15th century. So newspapers and magazines were a tool used to convey or to tell or to communicate information to people on a large scale. However, only sighted people could access these media. So what is the meaning of sighted people? Sighted, notice the spelling of the word sighted. It's S-I-G-H-T-E-D, sighted. Sighted means people who can see. So only people who can see could have access to newspapers and magazines because you had to see what was printed. And people who did not see, or blind people, could not read newspapers and magazines. This all changed in 1821 CE. You remember CE, right? What does CE stand for? It represents, or it stands for the words current era. Okay, so in 1821, things happened that made a huge change. It happened when an officer in the military in France was visiting the Royal Institute of the Blind in Paris. So we have a man from the army visiting an institute for the blind. This army officer wanted to demonstrate to the students a system of dots he had invented. So what did this officer have to show the students? Demonstrate means show, illustrate to the students a system of dots he had invented, he had created. These dots allowed soldiers to communicate without speaking. Why would an officer try to invent a way of communication without speaking? What do you think? Why would soldiers want to communicate without speaking? Maybe because in a war they needed to have special means of communication or codes or signals so that they can exchange messages without the enemy understanding what they said, right? So originally, the original reason why there was this system of dots was for the army soldiers to communicate. But this method of communication caught the attention of Louis Braille, a young man who was studying at the institute. So when this army officer was explaining the system of dots, this actually caught the attention. What is the meaning of caught the attention of Louis Braille? That means that Louis Braille noticed this idea and it made him think. So who is Louis Braille? He is a young man who was studying at the institute. What structure is this? Who was studying at the institute? If you remember, this is called an adjective clause. Who is the connector or the relative pronoun, and this relative pronoun connects the adjective clause to the noun man, a young man. So who refers to the young man or to Louis Braille? Okay. After many years of work, Louis Braille had improved and completed the system of raised dots, which became known as Braille. You know, Louis Braille was a blind young man. Actually, he lost his sight after an accident when he was very, very young. But he was very clever and bright. So he proved that he was worthy of continuing his studies, and he went to this institute um, of the blind in Paris. And when he saw this officer presenting the raised dot system, this gave him an idea. So he improved. Improved means he made it better. And he completed, because this system that the officer thought of was a very simple system, but Louis Braille improved it and completed it. And he presented a system of raised dots. Raised means high above, so they are not, you can touch them, you can feel them with the hand, which became known as Braille. So what became known as Braille? The system of raised dots. The characters, or the signals, or the symbols, consist of 6 tactile dots that can form 64 combinations, spelling out letters, numbers, and symbols. So these tactile dots, tactile is an adjective that is related to the sense of touch. You know that the adjective related to vision or to seeing is visual, and the adjective related to the sense of hearing is auditory, and the adjective that is related to the sense of touch is tactile. So these dots can be touched, you can feel them with your hands. And they are made of 6 different styles of dots, and these characters can form 64 combinations, and they make up letters, numbers, and symbols. By 1868 CE, 16 years after Louis Braille's death, blind people all over the world were using Braille every day. So after his death, people became more interested in Braille's system, and 16 years after, I apologize, 16 years after his death, they were using his system that is called Braille every day. How? It has been used, they used it for newspapers, for magazines, for books, for many sorts of different printed or published texts. It has also been adapted to scripts in different languages. What is the meaning of adapted? Adapted means modified, or we can say it has become used for other purposes in a different way, for different scripts, that is texts, written language, in different languages. It enables people, what is it? Braille, we mean the language of Braille, the raised dots. It enables blind people to read books, maps, and labels, and even to press buttons in a lift. Lift means, what does lift mean? It's an elevator. I don't know if you've ever noticed, if you go in a lift, the buttons sometimes have raised dots. That is because if a blind person is using the lift or the elevator, they can touch the button and read the number. A wide range of national daily newspapers are available in Braille too. Nowadays, screen reading software means that the text on a computer screen can be heard aloud. So now we have many computers and even smartphones that have special software that can read what is on the screen. And this is a feature that is very important for the people who are blind, because they can hear what is on the screen. Digital talking books that simultaneously generate output in Braille are also available. Digital books, that is virtual books, simultaneously means at the same time. They can generate output in Braille as well. So technology has helped a lot with the use of Braille and with the use of software to make the life of blind people or people with disability a little bit easier. So now I'm going to take you back to the two pictures on the top of the page, and I'm going to tell you what these are. The picture on the left is actually a computer attached to a Braille system. So the computer can read the Braille documents and it can produce Braille documents, text. On the right, you see people or a person using their fingers to read. They are reading raised dots. If you look carefully, you will see the dots and the different combination of dots. So this blind person probably is reading actually Braille, the raised dots. We are done with this lesson, and I would like you to do two things for me. First of all, I would like you to go back to your activity book, to the page at the end of your activity book where it has the glossary or the words, the meanings of words for Module 5, Unit 8, and check out the meanings of the words that we introduced today. I would also like you to please go to your activity book, page 44. On top of the page, you have a vocabulary exercise. It's here in front of you, and you need to complete the paragraph with words related to written communication. All of the words that you need to fill in the blanks are words that we studied just now in the text about Louis Braille. So take the time, read the text again, go check the words at the end of your activity book, then go back to page 44 and do this exercise. I will give you the right answers, inshallah, at the beginning of our next video, which will talk about more or other ways of communication. As usual, I hope you enjoyed the lesson today. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact me and ask. All the best.